Hey everyone, time for Geocache Talk. Whether you're at work, in the car, wherever you are, we hope you enjoy this show about the great sport of geocaching. If you're watching on YouTube Live, you can be part of the adventure tonight. Join us in the chat room. And if you want to participate there, it'd be wonderful. You can find the link to the chat room, and it's on the geocachetalk.com front page. If you go down a little ways down from the show, you'll of course see our vlogger affiliates on there as well and their latest vlogs. And then you'll notice there'll be a little link that says about the chat room. So you can join us there. If you're listening later, you can give us a like and subscribe on your favorite podcasting app. And that way you can get all the weekly Geocache Talk goodness. Big thanks to the Travel Bugs for the music and our featured patrons, A. Holly S., Geodandrew, Direwolf 821, Deuteronomy 31:8, Sasquatch Lover, Anje Edaman, Emily Renee, Scout Mom 5, Anspire Crew, Scrabble Hounds, and our new patrons, Cache the Line. Look at that, Cache the Line. What do you know? Here he is and with us tonight. 0 Ridland Kids 0 still a great one. Florida TB Hunter, The Caching Dead, New York, Cool, UDAC, The Dig Family, JB Opto, New York Jets fan, Keeper of the Cash Flow, Geovet 91, Nitty Gritsky, E-Ray Bowl, and Hoffer 15. If you'd like to become a patron, head on over to patreon.com/geocache talk for more details. Patrons get the new blackout coins, which should look like just like that. It's okay.
There it is.
There it is. He's got it. Just got his coin
at home.
That's okay.
Here it is.
Jeff's got his.
We'll
right?
edit it in later.
Yeah, we'll magically put it in there on your as you hold it up. Other geocaching items, find myself in the notes. Other geocaching items during the year, and I've been sending out our zipper pulls. There's a zipper pull right there.
Those have been showing up on social media too, which is so cool.
I got one.
Jeff's got his zipper pull. Woohoo! He's got one to give away even tonight later. So
3.
You got 3 to give away, man. You got a lot of giveaways tonight. That's awesome. And we're going to do those during the show. I mean, we're not going to do them all at the same time, right? That's cool. It'll be great.
Yeah.
Special events, we keep adding, Jesse. We're up to even more people for that event. I keep calling the restaurant going, can you move us up to 85 people? Is that okay? And they're like, yep, no problem.
At what point does our special event go mega?
Right.
I think we're getting close to there.
How many do you need for a mega, right? For that.
Maybe you can make
No, I'm never going to be hosting a mega again, so that is not going to happen.
We have great sympathy for those that do megas because we know the problems. We hear about problems. We know about the problems. You know about the problems. You did 14er. You know about the craziness. Okay, and then support levels start at as little as Bison Tube level, which is $3 a month. $3 a month. Let me welcome my co-host Jesse.
Good evening.
And I'm going to mention our guests here in a moment, but let's jump right into show 147 for May 5th. I'm wearing my Star Wars shirt. It's not May the 4th, but it's close enough. I thought I'd wear my Star Wars shirt.
Revenge of the 5th.
That's right. Revenge of the 5th. As we discuss the book, Geocaching Challenges, the game within a game. And joining us for the discussion is the CFO of Memphis Mafia, Christy.
Hi, everybody.
Good to have Christy along. And also Jeff May, Jeff of Cache the Line.
Hello.
Good to have you along, buddy. So everyone, welcome back. Everybody's been on the show. We really appreciate having you two on. Always appreciate Christy talking about Podcast to Hope. That always means a lot to me every year. I know it means a lot to you guys as well. So looking forward to another year of Podcast to Hope coming up this December. So I don't know how much we're going to raise. We'll have to talk about that, but it's been great every year to raise money for St. Jude.
What was our goal last year was 3 and we raised 4.
4, right.
So we're going for 4 this year.
Hopefully raise 5.
Hopefully raise 5. Look at that.
There
Raise
you
the
go.
bar.
But we can't like just drag it out for 8 days. We have to keep it at 8 hours. 12 hours.
12 hours.
12 hours. 12 hours?
Yeah, 12 hours. 4 p.m. to midnight.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, for you guys, it's 3 to 11.
Hours.
Yeah, 8 hours.
That's 8 hours.
Yeah, 8 hours. Maybe we could go 12. Maybe we should just change it.
Oh, easy.
Maybe 24. We could do.
No, that's too much.
Okay. All right, we're moving on. All right, let's get into the news. A couple notes tonight, and we'll get right into the show here in a moment. New blog post is on the website, and it's really good. I mean, I love all the blog posts. I really appreciate Angie being in charge of the blog, being our blog manager. She finds the greatest blogs for blog posts that people are talking to. If you want any information, send us email geocachetalk@gmail.com, and we can get you in touch with Angie. We had a little bit of a snafu internally on the website. We didn't really talk to one another about stuff, and anyway, we got it all fixed. So blog post's fine. If you want to get us, you can subscribe to it, and what'll happen is you'll get a reminder that there's a new blog post. So it's not we're not like spamming everybody a bunch of stuff, but she does post it usually once a month, and this way you can get a kind of a reminder email wise of the blog post. But it's really good. Eat, Sleep, Cache, Repeat, who I had the privilege of meeting at Gigastock last year. She tells her story, and definitely have a Kleenex nearby when you read that blog post. So it's great though. Very, very well done.
But everybody keeps sending you have a story out there you haven't told yet. So send it in, share that story with other people. You might be surprised who can relate to it.
Absolutely. No, you're exactly right. Okay. Quick notes, Geocache update podcast vlogger panel Saturday at 2:30. We will be on that. Jesse and I, and vloggers. Are you going to be on that, Jeff? Are you just going to be are you going to be in the crowd?
I'll be in the crowd and the meet and greet afterwards, but there for support.
Yeah. Well, definitely nearby, because we'll definitely point you out. So we're going to go. You can wave at everybody, so it'll be great.
There's going to be a bunch of vloggers there too.
Yeah.
There will be
nice. We're not heckled.
Right. We're hoping for that. That's our goal.
Little heckling's okay. It's all right.
We'll get those anyway. And then our show that week will be from the GPS Maze Sunday at 3. So if you're local and you're still around Sunday at 3, come by and actually watch the show live. If you're not, you'll try to remember, and we'll remind people that the show's not at 8 p.m. that night. It's at 3 p.m. that day. So
like one of our international shows.
Exactly. It's kind of like exactly just like that. Okay, so tonight is the last night. Today is the last day. Tonight is the last night to purchase meals, rodeo, and racetrack ride or drive tickets. So if you want to be in the limo as they race you around the track at the Texas Motor Speedway, you need to do that tonight. Tonight is the deadline. Also, they need to fill some more rooms at the Sheraton. So if you are available to do that, we would really appreciate you switching your hotel to the host hotel. There's a lot of cool reasons why. I mean, you might run into Jesse and Christy there. I mean, they probably will sign an autograph, a book for you. Or
there you go.
So
swinging from the rafters, running through toga party at night.
Toga party. Well, and we might do a show. You might see a live show. We might do we're thinking about doing a show.
Highly likely
from the Sheraton.
A lot of random live shows going on.
Yep, and we got a lot of stuff with this, so you never know. We might be just throwing stuff to the crowd, so you might want to switch your hotel over. If you do, let them know that you did it because we happen to mention it, because it's always nice to know that we are loved and appreciated. So
by we mean the Geo Woodstock, not necessarily us.
yeah, Geo Woodstock, let them know that we appreciate them.
It takes a lot to put on something like this and convince hotels to gamble on some hobby they've never heard of and everything else to bring to a city. So they need all the props they can get for something like that.
Thank your volunteers while you're there.
Or be a volunteer.
Or be one.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Very much so. Yes. The Memphis Mafia crew knows it well. I never forget being there, having a table. It was our first table ever for Geocache Talk, and both of them. I don't think I saw Jesse the day before we went to the early pickup, and man, it was a madhouse, but I thought it went great. And there were still people who are like, "Oh, I got to stand in line to get my early." It's like, hey, you're going to stand in line anywhere you go when you have that many people,
right? Well, and I found out for the first time from behind the scenes, like if you do like they're doing early registration pickup, if you think there's going to be a short line there because only 200 people have RSVP'd, keep dreaming. There's going to be like 2,000 people there, and there's going to be a line. There's no way to hand out packets to 2,000 people without
just
line. Right. You just have to like airdrop it. It can't happen. So just be happy, visit with people in line. You'll probably be discovering trackables the whole time you're in line anyway. So just have fun with it.
Right. That's what we did.
I like bugs in a good way.
Right.
So
hats and shirts and stickers and bags.
Exactly.
The good bugs. I meant,
the good bugs. Yeah. And
some just even are travel bugs. Like I don't mean the tattoos. I mean like their RFID stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You can scan people. Make sure you have permission though, but then start scanning people.
Yeah. Yeah, I found one like that at Gigastock where the guy had a chip in his arm, and if you scanned it, it would give you the code. It's like, dude, that's hardcore. That's hardcore, man. But if you do sign up to be, or if you do switch over to the host hotel, they're also offering early Maze entry to all host hotel guests.
How do you beat that?
I know you can't beat that. So that's a great little perk.
Plus, it's like a 24/7 party, right? You're all staying at the same hotel.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's gonna be crazy. I mean, Josh with the geocaching vlogger is gonna be there. I mean, I don't know who all. I mean, a lot of people staying there. I mean, it could be insane. So, all right. If you want to know any more, you can either email us. We'll get you in touch with our people, or you can email D Vickery. That's DE Vickery, Vickery at texasgeocaching.com, and she will get you all the information on that. All right. Last item, and then we're going to get into our show, but been talking to a Canadian, not Jeff.
A different one. The other Canadian.
There's only a couple up there. No, talking to another Canadian that geocaches about an event that is going to be taking place Friday, August 16th is the welcome event. And the group is Search. It is the Southeast Alberta Region Cache Hunters, SEARCH. So if you go to Search MH for Medicine Hat, searchmh.com, you can get more details on the event that is going to be taking place. Really exciting. This is their 10th year, and they've got a lot of cool stuff planned. It's like a mega. They've got all sorts of incredible stuff, artwork around their city. Local businesses are involved. A lot of local businesses. I was really impressed by their list of sponsors. Starbucks, and a lot of there's a brewery that's sponsoring them. So I mean, you can't go wrong. A little beer and a little coffee can't be bad. So check them out. Searchmh.com, and think about making a trip to that event. So that's awesome. A lot of cool events around, and we wanted to really highlight a couple. So that's a cool one. All right.
Is that link to Search is going to be in the show notes, right? Somebody was asking for
it.
That.
Is.
Okay.
Yes.
It'll be in the show notes.
I'll put it in the while we're starting the show. I'll also put it in the chat. I think I can. I don't think everybody else can, but I can. There you go. Searchmh.com. So very excited about that for them, and anything we can do to help with some of these events, we're more than happy to help out. So, all right, the Geocaching Challenges book. So I'm going to turn this over to Jesse and Christy to begin with, and as we kind of go through it, I'm actually going to kind of watch more of the chat room, and I'll jump in when I can. But this is really their baby. So talk to us about how this whole kind of came about.
Okay. And the reason why the CFO is on here today, besides just being able to bully me in person as opposed to in the chat room, is we wrote it together. So challenges, and not to be confused with geocaching challenges. We're talking about challenge caches. That's a whole other story.
Yeah, that's for another show.
We'll leave that debacle in the past, right? But
yeah, I needed.
We're talking about the living geocaching challenges, not
the good stuff.
It's not the stolen, soon to be waymark or whatever.
Right.
But the reason why we decided on writing the challenge book was out of everything, and everybody knows that I love Where I Goes, and they hold a special place for us. But the thing that's inspired us the most has been the challenges, really to get off the couch and get out and do things and change the way we cache. And we go into the long version of the story, of course, but how as a family being so different, we were able to get into them together. And that's something we could all do as a family together, the challenges, because there's so many different types. We're able to kind of, find that common line and just really, like we talked about last week, you've been more inspired because of that one challenge you're working on than you have been in years that I've known you about geocaching. So
that's true.
That same thing kind of got to us. And then I guess it surprised us that other people would say things like, I'm not really into challenges,
or I could never qualify. So
yeah, I could never qualify, or I could never do this or that, or I don't understand them. And people that are experienced cachers, some of them really don't know much about challenges. And it was such an important part of our caching journey that we wanted to put it all together in a easy to read format that was also kind of funny. So it wouldn't be any fun if it was just serious, right? I mean,
right. No,
an instructional book. That'd be no fun. We could do a podcast episode on that and be done. But this is that. But it's also stories and how we, as we are, everybody knows our personality pretty much that's listening to the show. We don't hesitate to mention when we mess up. We learn a lot more from where we screw up than we do when everything goes right. So how it kind of went is I threw up on the page just tons of words, and she made it into an actual book.
Yay. Way to go, Christy.
Which, if I was going to write it, it'd be like 8,000 pages long and on every sidetrack rabbit hole in the world, and nobody could ever read it. And I wouldn't use any punctuation or commas.
Be one long text. It'd just be like
editing is something that Microsoft Word does, not me. I don't do that. But there was many times where I'm glad she was involved with it because I can write stories because geocaching has meant tons to our family. So I've got 1,000 stories that I could write in there that are fun to share with people that we learn things off of. But there were several times where she would go, you can't put this in a book. She goes, you can't. I was like, but that was important. She goes, right. But those rants, things that happen and you're like, but this is a good lesson. And she's like, you can't write this. You can't do that. So we took some of those things out.
Or what were you trying to say in this sentence?
Right.
I'd give her a chapter and she goes, so explain to me what this is supposed to be saying. I'm like, didn't it make sense? Or sometimes I even read it back through and I go, man, I don't know. I don't know what I was trying to say there.
What was I thinking? Oh, well.
We'd have to change it. But there are some stories in there that people have heard us reference on this show. So they'll be familiar with some of them, but this is more of an extended version of some of those stories.
Yeah.
Completely different ones. And
well, I like you did that too, because I think that's important because you want to hear the stories. You don't, like you said, you could write a challenge book that just lists challenges, but what's the point? That's not really, You
Right.
want
And just to be clear about it, we did get technical with it. So we did talk about
which is good.
exactly what they are, the history of challenges, why they are. Because a lot of people that are newer in the game or weren't really involved in challenges before don't understand why some of the rules are in place. And, we all joke on the show about it. Wish they would let us do this and that. And, I'm actually in quite a bit of support of geocaching when it comes to the rules they have for challenges. And that might shock some people, but there was some wacky stuff out there before, right? And
these rules have quite
trying to highlight a few of them in the book. Do what? Yeah.
A lot of these rules have quite a history of how they got to
They
that
do.
point.
And we tried to give it, I didn't want to write a history book because I wouldn't even read that. But
I would.
to give some history,
I would read that.
Right? Like does it hurt anybody to spell out the name of somebody's cat? No, it doesn't. Right. Is that really that interesting of a challenge? It may be to cat people, but, but to most of us, it's not. So they changed a lot of those things. And what people don't understand is why they change it. It's not just because it's dumb that people, I shouldn't say that, right? But just because it's dumb, I'll say it again. Some of these things that people put out there, there's a different reason for it. You can change the name of a cache after it's published. So somebody may travel, to get that X or that Z, and they travel 100 miles, and they get back home and get ready to claim that challenge, and somebody changed the name of it.
Oh,
that's I just spent thousands of dollars doing it.
That's like changing
the only one in your state or something. So it's hard to do challenges on things that are changeable, right? Even though there's still some, like DT is still changeable after you publish the cache, and that can mess people up. But a lot of those rules were for really good reason. I think they were saying like 80% of reviewers' time, which I've talked to many reviewers, was spent on arguments between cache owners and cache finder and challenge finders. So,
and there was some. We're not going to talk a lot about this tonight, I know, but we've talked about this before when you came down and we went and signed a bunch of these challenges, and that is some of them are kind of cool, but others are kind of like random as heck. Find a cache every Tuesday for, find a 5-5 every Tuesday for a month. It's like, okay, I guess so. Remember that one? It was fives. You had to find one on the 5th of the month, the 15th of the month, the 25th, it was something like that. Remember that? It was like,
that was a wild one. And a lot of those old ones didn't have checkers on them, or don't have checkers because there wasn't checkers back then. Right. And we kind of talk about that too, how the checker system works, whether you're going to find one or hide one. And we go into some detail, and some of that could be dry, but we tried to make it a little bit of fun. But also explain exactly what's going on, because if you haven't really gotten into the checkers, the Project GC challenge checkers,
right,
it's a whole new world of availability for some of these old challenges. And a lot of times they will build checkers for old challenges that not even the owners request them, but you can request that they be built.
Oh, really? Project GC will do that?
Obviously, it's not the priority because the new challenge has to be the priority, and those are volunteers too. They don't get paid, as far as I understand.
Right.
A lot of those checkers can be built as well, and just need to be shifted over to the old cache.
Yeah, cloning them. We try to go into detail. If you haven't built a lot of them, it can seem kind of daunting to get into it for the first time, but it's really easy once you get into them. And there's a lot of information in there about challenge checkers and other challenges. And
I think that's where the book comes at a good time, because now you have these new challenge rules. So there might be cachers out there who remember challenges of past, where they are like find a cache on every 5th Tuesday of whatever.
Right.
So it's not something they're interested in. And then on the flip side of that, you may also have cachers who are intimidated by the challenge checker. Sure. And so we tried to break that down to show that it's not necessarily intimidating. It's easy to do. And not only can you go out and find some really high quality challenge caches now, but you can also put out your own. Someone mentioned in the chat room earlier about some travel that they're doing, and is there a challenge for that particular travel? And, Jesse suggested you should put out your own. And, that's the great thing about this book is it can teach you how to do that, which is exciting.
That's cool.
And the general layout of the book too. And it was a lot of fun, right? To get to work on a project together. That was a lot of fun. And to something that was so special to us, and try to put it into not too long. It's not too long of a book, a couple hundred pages, but it's supposed to be fun. Here's the picture. And it'll be at Woodstock, and it'll be available on Amazon after Woodstock. But to make it approachable, so geocaching is such a wide range of people, right? There's people that have been caching since 2000 are still finding 100 caches every single day. Those guys should know just about everything about the game, right? But there's some stuff they don't know, but the stories are still good in there for them. If, even if you're the expert on challenges, which I don't know who that would be, right? But the expert on challenges, you should still be able to find something out of there or some inspiration.
Yeah, it's not just an instructional book about putting out challenges or finding challenges. It has some stories in there. It also has some information about our favorite challenges that we've achieved so far and some tips that we have if you want to go after those same challenges, and then just some mistakes that we made along the way, and
bunches.
Yeah, and then just some funny stories.
Right.
About just Jesse caching, just he and I, or both of us with the girls. So it's an interesting read. It's not just a boring instructional manual, for sure.
But the instructions are in there.
Yeah,
you should be able to start from scratch and go, now I know how to find challenges, plan for them, do all the stuff that you need to go after them, and publish my own as well, just from this one book. So hopefully that'll help people. And again, just like you got re-inspired by one challenge, got you re-inspired, and you've been caching forever. So
06.
Who knows what that one challenge is going to be, right? And of course, because it's a geocaching book, and yours was so popular the way you put it out and inspired me when you did the 201 caches or whatever. Mm-hmm. We've got a couple lists in there, so hopefully people like those as well.
Cool. Oh yeah.
And it's a geocaching book, so there may be some hidden surprises. Who knows?
Some Easter eggs.
Maybe some Easter eggs in there. You can't do that. You can't do a geocaching book without some Easter eggs, right? That precedence has already been set now. Or movie, or whatever else, right?
Right.
I set that now. So
Janice is Jerry is like, do I have to mortgage the house to purchase it? It's like, I don't think. Yeah, Chris.
No mortgage necessary.
I don't think it's going to be that. It's not going to be that expensive.
Oh no, absolutely 12, not. And
$12 or whatever. I mean, come on.
So it will be
less than a meal.
Amazon after the show. I mean, not after the show. After
group Geostock.
I want to get the first ones out and be able to hand them out in person and sign them and do that and give that to people and stuff. That's kind of the debut. We talked about that a long time ago, debuting it there. But it'll be up and available, and even because we have a lot of international people it'll be on .au, Australia, it'll be on the UK and everything else. So we'll have it for everybody that reads English, which,
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody will get it translated. It'd be terrible. But at the show, at the actual event, we'll have them for a hugely discounted price too, for $10 a piece. So signed and everything right there, and no shipping, no waiting on it. So, we have a whole couple boxes of them to bring down there. So should be a lot of fun. And for us, it's going to be fun being able to hand a book that we did together over the last several months over to somebody.
Yes.
It's a lot of fun in person. Amazon is cool because I'm glad everybody gets a chance to get it, but it's cool to get to meet people for us. Events are great. So you get to actually meet people that you talk to online all the time. So that's why we're trying to sell it so cheap down there, so we can get it in as many people's hands as we can. So
a couple quick notes, and then we're going to kind of get into some of the meat of challenges and talk about some things that you guys put in the book. So Travis made a comment, and I want to get both Jeff and all of Memphis's comments on this, but he made a note. He says he signed and discovered more than 3,000 trackables. It's a 3,000 trackables cache.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a challenge is what he's referring to, that he wanted to do. And the reviewers talked the hider down from 5,000 he had done originally. So is that something that, because I think both of you have hid challenge caches before. I've never done that, but both of you have. So do you find that your local reviewers have been pretty good about working? Like Jeff, has yours worked with you pretty well about yours? And we'll get into some of yours here in a little bit.
Oh yeah. They excuse me. They pay a lot of attention to Ontario is very large, so there's a huge But they pay a lot of attention to the makeup of the community, the kinds of challenges that are already out there, the ranges and stuff. So if it seems like it might be too hard, or if it's just really there's a high density of that exact same challenge, then they'll kind of prompt you to make some adjustments if you can. So yeah, they're very friendly and
work with you like that. So I guess what happened for Travis?
I know all the challenge. I've known all the reviewers out here for a while, and in the areas around me for a while, the surrounding states or whatever. We kind of talk about that because and I won't get into the story now. It's in the book, but there's an example of where I did something like that, and I was actually unreasonable with what I was trying to put out. I didn't see it that way initially, and I was like, "This guy's out to get me, and he hates me." And he was like, "Dude, nobody in the whole state's qualified for that challenge." I was like, "Oh, dang."
Exact same thing happened to me because a couple of the first challenges that I put out, this is before, you had the restrictions for having a certain number of people that already qualify and whether you qualified yourself. And so I was putting out a couple of pretty high extreme ones because I know in Ontario, there's some really, really prolific cachers. And so they already qualify. So I wanted to actually make it a challenge that people wouldn't just be able to go and sign right away, and I had to be talked down a few times. And we had some nice back and forth discussions about what's feasible and what's viable.
Yeah, it's and so we kind of mentioned that, and one tip that we put in there, and we go into a lot more detail because we've learned from a lot of mistakes. Just like with just about every cache type, except for maybe traditional, right, that we've ever put out, we get ideas for about 5 for every one that we actually publish because they're so extreme. They're like, no, that's not going to work, man. You can't do that.
Right.
Like, oh, yeah, you're right. But email your reviewer. Shoot them an email and say, this is what I'm looking at. What do you think about this? They will absolutely, it saves them a bunch of time. They're like, oh, yeah, it's a great idea. Or, oh, did you not notice that there's one right down the street?
Yeah.
Because that you don't realize because people call things different. Like in the book, we talk about the classic challenges, Jasmer, 366, Fizzy. But even the county one, the one that's inspired Gary so much recently, the county challenge here in our state is not called the county challenge. Fizzy can be called 81. It can be called grid. It can be called all kinds of things. So you may not even realize right in the next town over, there's already the exact same challenge. So it's good to shoot them an email and say, here's what I'm putting together. What do you think about this?
Right.
So it saves you a lot of time and hurt feelings because there is a proximity. There's no defined line, but they don't want 3 Jasmer challenges in one town, right?
Right.
That's just stacking challenges. That's no good. So
right.
It can definitely save you some headache to do a few of those things ahead of time.
And it's also a good point to remember that just because you see a challenge somewhere on the other side of the country and you think that's a really cool challenge, that it might not be publishable in your region just because your own community makeup or the cache landscape might be very different. Like I remember when I was down in Nevada, there were some challenges for the easy was 30,000 fines. Like, are you kidding? But they have so many power trails that so many people have that many fines. So it's a lot easier down there. You wouldn't be able to get that up in Ontario. Right. So, I mean, we have power trails, but definitely not enough people to qualify for that sort of level. So they'll vary from region to region as well.
Right. Yeah.
We go into that a little bit too, because Colorado is not the same as other states. There's some extreme differences between Colorado and
well,
the coast. And if you travel and you go, oh, this is a reasonable challenge, or who in the world could possibly meet this challenge?
Right.
We travel to Germany. We found out that a lot of the top challenges were in Germany. I think there's one that's on the list that let's
reference the book.
Yeah, reference the book. That's what I should do, right? Instead of looking it up. There's one on the Germany list that was
a popular one.
Yeah, it was a challenge that's like find 8 5.5s on every day in every country within 4 hours and something crazy. And I was like, I thought they couldn't put things like this out anymore. It's like one of the most, in Germany, a popular challenge is like 50,000 favorite points as opposed to like 50 here, right?
How about it's 1,500?
1,500.
Well, you can see why she edits the book, right? But I mean,
exactly.
Here's the funny thing: tons of people have done that over there.
Wow.
You put all these crazy challenges you would never get away with here, and it's so different from area to area, and it's important to do that. And
talk about your 5x5x5 challenge that.
Well, that's the one I tried to publish in another state, and they were like, "People here don't do that."
Right. Whereas
like everybody I know goes after those. What are you talking about?
Same thing with the fizzy grids. Like when somebody says that they're working on, say, their 4th fizzy or something, I don't immediately think, oh, they're not that prolific of a cacher, because in their region, they might just not have that many DT combinations. So that would be huge for them. Whereas over here, I know in Southern Ontario, there's a huge spread of almost every DT all over the place. And I'm working on close to my 30th Fizzy. And that, to some people, that sounds ridiculous. But I mean, if you live in Ontario, it's fairly doable. So like even that, the spread of caches that are available is going to be different from place to place.
Some people don't hunt that at all. You know, they don't hunt the Fizzy. And we were just in South Dakota, and there's people up there that have done it like 16, 17 times, or all with multis, or all these crazy things that I'm like, I didn't know people even did that.
And it's not just Fizzy. Like we talk in the book about the Jasmer. When we first heard about the Jasmer challenge, we were like, oh my goodness, there's no way we're even close. We came home and checked our stats, and we were over halfway there without really trying, just because of the cache population that's here in Colorado. We're lucky that we have a lot of older, well-maintained caches. So we, got really lucky. So you're right. It kind of depends on where you're caching. But the great thing about challenges is there are so many of them. Yeah. So you don't have to go. If Jasmer is not going to work for you because maybe you're not able to travel, or there are not a lot of old caches in your area, well, don't go for Jasmer. You can go for Fizzy, or you can go for the 365 challenge, or there's a multitude of different ways for you to get into the challenge game. You don't have to go for those big ones, or, put out something for, achieve some sort of challenge that you think is interesting, and then put it out for your local caching community. They'll be excited about it.
Yeah, I agree.
The thing is, when you qualify for one, you also qualify for all of them if they're the same challenge. So if your year grid, you can now sign and find that one cache that's near you. But if you go traveling on a vacation or something, you find another year grid challenge, whatever the DT may be, you're free to sign it and log it because you've already qualified. Right. So that's another one.
Very cool.
And we use challenges, just like what you said Gary's doing. We use challenges to kind of re-inspire us a little. We had been caching for a little bit and found caches. We're like, okay, awesome. This is cool. But we're incredibly competitive as a family. So when we found out about challenges, we're like, wow, this is a way to be competitive with ourselves and have a goal. And, it can really, if you're in a caching lull or in your dark period of caching where you're like, oh, I found 2 last month, I don't really want to go look for another traditional. This is a way to kind of light the fire again and, get things going and make it really exciting.
Absolutely.
Or even kind of get into something brand new. You mentioned the trackables. Some people do not discover trackables.
Right.
That's their philosophy. That either they don't like to do it, or they don't, unless they've moved it, they don't want to do it, or they just don't care about trackables. Some people love it and sit around at these megas and just go through books and books, and have discovered thousands. And it was things like that. We mentioned one other story in there too, but trackables, that's a challenge is what got us into trackables. Some challenge says, discover 1,000 trackables, and I'd seen like 3. It's like, oh dear.
Kind of on the trackable challenges though, because in a sense it also kind of encourages people not to necessarily pay attention to the trackables. They won't necessarily look at the object or whatever it is, or find out what their goal or mission is. They're just, okay, spread them out on the table, let's get pictures and auto log them all just for the challenge. It's like,
true.
And there's tons of different ways to look at that, right? There's, and you see there may be ways to, did they just discover them? Did they move them? Did they own them? So there's tons of different ways to get into different aspects. And the good thing is, it's not like an all or nothing, right? Like I'm working on this challenge and I'm like, I'm tired of trackables. Okay, I've already signed this challenge cache, so it doesn't really matter if I finish it this year or come back to it in 5 years from now. Yeah. Just like the county challenge. Okay, I got the first time and I need to break. I need to do something different. I didn't lose any progress. I'll just come back to it another time when I want it. So you can have tons of challenges going on at one time. And we were kind of looking at that before the show started. Project GC has a great, which we definitely need to get back into Project GC, our second half of that show.
Something
there's
that
great stuff on Project GC about challenges, the ones you've signed, the ones you've qualified for, and the map of them. There's so much on there that people don't even realize probably.
Geo Dandrew on there made a comment, and I made a note to the fact that I definitely think we need to do a Project GC show to help people use Project GC more, but also we can also do one of the focuses of that show would be about challenges and how challenges interact with Project GC. Because I think a lot of people get, like you said, they get intimidated by challenges, but then they were really intimidated when they go like, oh, I got to go to Project GC and work on this. It's like, so.
So in the chat room, Geo Jerry's Adventures asked, is there a list with all the different challenges?
Worldwide?
So I'm not exactly sure, like all the challenges worldwide. Yeah. So what you would do is go to geocaching.com and just filter. And if you filter for words in the name of the challenge, you can just put challenge, because that's one of the newer rules, that the word challenge has to be in English, no matter where it is, in the title of the cache. So you can see exactly how many challenges are worldwide now, which is great. I mean, that's a genius rule. And a lot of people came out, they were like, I don't want to put challenge in the title.
Yeah. So tough. Challenges, like after the moratorium had that rule in there, you had to have the challenge in, well, that was all the time, but have to have the challenge in the title. There were still those leftover caches that had challenge that weren't actually challenges. But I'm finding now recently that's not happening as much. Like pretty much anything that has challenge is an actual challenge.
Yeah, that's
for the most.
So they're not letting stuff through.
You have to, because it's in the rules now, it makes it easier to search, right? So that's a good rule. I know people were, they're changing what I can do for my, well, there's a reason for it. So that's a great thing.
There's also a couple of cool lists in our book at the end about some popular challenges. That, you can reference. And
if you're new to challenges, like if you're just starting off, here's a few to try. If you've been doing it for a little while, here's some more to try. And then if you're really crazy in advance or in Germany, here's some other ones to try.
Or both. That's awesome.
But no, I think it's good. And we were looking at it, and I actually didn't even know until we were talking about before the show, but we've actually found 234 challenges, which is, to some it's a lot, to some it's hardly any. We have 28 other ones that are signed, and but before we cleaned it up, we had about a list of 200 that we were looking at. Yeah, so we're working towards several, and we've signed several. So everybody has a different level. Some people have done 7, some people have done 7,000 challenges,
Sure.
Yeah, I just looked at that just literally a couple minutes before the show started, and I found I'm at 387 found and about 40 signed.
That's not bad.
Yeah. Good. So that's everybody has a different level of it. They and they can do it. People may want to go and only sign one challenge and work on one at a time. That's could be a perfectly legitimate way to do it, but it's fun to get out there and do that, right? And sign it. So that's like Gary and I have talked about before. Gary signed some challenges that he thought at the time he would never, ever qualify.
Never know.
For. But I think right?
Yeah, because you can sign them, just you can't log them, but you can go ahead and sign them.
Well, yeah, because I was out getting GCD out west there. There's a power trail of some really high difficulty challenges. And I think I qualified for 1 or 2 at the time. But I just added them to a list, and now every so often I go back and check. It's like, oh, I qualify for that now, and so you can log them as found once you qualified. So it's good to don't pass it up just because it's a challenge cache.
Never pass it up. I don't care if you think you'll never be into it. A couple things from the chat room is people said that's what makes geocaching so much fun. Is it's so varied, and you can change from time to time. So you don't know what you're going to be into. If you're still in the game 5 years from now, you may have an absolutely different focus. I know ours changes year to year. And
that's one of the lessons learned in the book is in the beginning, we didn't realize that you could still go ahead and sign, or you could, sign the log and then come back and qualify for it later. So we passed up so many.
Well, and they clarified that in the new rules after the moratorium, which was great because it's clear. You can't have that because there's still people that say the old challenges, they would say, don't you dare go sign it before you're qualified. So they cleared that up in the rules. Now
that up a little bit.
How can that be verified, right? Like that's the other thing. How can the owner verify that somebody, didn't qualify before they signed the cache? Especially if you don't have to date your name, right? It's just your name is in the log sheet. Oh, but it didn't really work out. It's not something that's enforceable.
Yeah, and it's it's all gray, which that's where the problems came in the first place. It's all gray. Well, they think it's this way, and you think it's that way. And so an interesting number that just came up in the chat room. I want to before it scrolls that way and is gone. Chat room starts going. Geocaching with GSMX2 says 25,558 challenges came up when they put challenge in the title.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Of the old ones that don't have challenge in the name.
Now, I don't know if they did this or not because I didn't mention it, but another way to kind of clear that up is make sure you only check unknown is the category, because sometimes people put challenge in titles of other ones.
Yeah.
So that's a lot. Either way, that's a whole lot of challenges out there, to go for.
And then someone else in the chat room mentioned that they're not a challenge cacher. So what I would say is that even though you're not a challenge cacher, there's some pretty funny stories in this book, like the time Jesse lost a drone.
Easy. We don't talk about that now.
I'm just saying, you might want to read the book to get some of those funny stories out of it. So even if challenges aren't your big thing, there's still some tips that you could really take and use for any type of caching, and then also just some funny stuff that makes fun of Jesse a lot.
Yeah, that was our intention to have some funny stories. Whether you're a challenge cacher or you like Where I Goes, or heaven forbid, Earth caches or whatever. There's we try to put some funny stories in there, so it's a fun read. And then, if nothing else, I'm curious who's going to find the Easter eggs first, because we can track that, so that'll be a lot of fun. I was going
to say real quick, the person that said that they're not into challenge caches, it's like, I'm not really into challenge caches, but then again, maybe I kind of am. I mean, maybe you kind of are. I mean, if somebody goes, I'm not into challenges, do you work on VisiGrid? Oh yeah. Well, that's a challenge. Or like, no, I don't deal with that, but I am trying to get all 366 days. Oh, well, that's a challenge. I don't think
the other
people don't think of those. People a lot of times forget about those. Those are actual, like, real legitimate challenges. I mean, they're just
absolutely.
They just don't see them sometimes as a challenge, because they think of them. They think of challenge caches as something like, finding a 5.5 every day for a year or something. I don't know, something like that.
Which sounds like fun, but
it sounds like fun to you, not as much fun to me.
Absolutely. Right. And the other thing is too. So let's say you're not into challenge caches, and that's fine. Everybody's into different parts of the game, right? But you're probably into something. There's probably something about geocaching that you're passionate about. And challenges are a good way to get others inspired to try that. So if you only like LPCs or, 1-1s because you want them, or, 1 terrains because you want more caching out there for people with different disabilities. Cool. Right. Make a challenge for that.
That's a great idea.
Finding that, maybe it's Where I Goes, I mean, you shouldn't have any encouragement to do that because they're awesome, but
if you've ever looked at your stats and saw something and been curious about some pattern, then chances are there's a challenge for it somewhere.
Probably. And it can go beyond just geocache challenges. Maybe it can be a personal challenge. Maybe you want to start being more physically active. So your goal is to walk and find a cache every day. I mean, something like that. And the challenge can kind of push you to do that. And, there's a story in the book very similar to that, where there was a point in our life where we needed a challenge. And going after this one particular geocaching challenge, helped us. I'm not going to ruin the story, but helped us,
well, the longer
change things, change the course of what we were doing at the time. So,
and as we all know, the longer you're in caching, the more it's going to take. It's going to be part of the narrative of your personal life, right? Like you go through if you're in geocaching for 10 years and you have nothing bad happen to you over 10 years, good for you. But most people have something, ups and downs, over those 10 years, and caching can either be something that goes to the wayside or something that helps you pull through the bad times, and it's all about how you look at it. And, we're pretty open about things like that, lessons that we've learned in life. So we tried to come across that way at the same time. We're pretty much open book when it comes to things like that.
Yeah. All right. So,
okay, I got to show the book again.
Okay, go show the book.
When's the audio version available?
So somebody jokes about that, but I am actually looking into an audio version as well. Yep, but that would be awesome. It takes months to get that done, and we wanted to make sure we had it out and available for the event. So we've been sitting on it for a little while for that, but it'll be 6 months before you can get. If nobody's ever worked on an audio book before, it takes several months to get one of those done.
Yeah. Who would you want to narrate?
So that's the weird thing, right? Obviously me, but I'd be terrible at it. It would take like 8 years to do it.
Well, you would ramble. You wouldn't stick to the book. That would be the problem.
Without getting sidetracked, I would absolutely ramble. There's no doubt about it.
That's funny.
But there's a whole process, and I love audiobooks.
Pathfinder says James Earl Jones.
James Earl Jones. He's probably not available in my price range.
Maybe not.
An expensive book.
But Charles,
to get this out for the community, not to get rich.
We'll get Charles to do it.
Yeah, there's
yeah, Pathfinder could do it.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that can do that or whatever, but I'm not one of them. So somebody will be, and the whole point is if you ever bought books on Audible, this will not be one of those things. We have to find a way to keep the project down because we don't want a $30 book for people. That's not in the geocaching price range, right? I'd rather you spend that on good caches than an expensive book. So we're gonna have to find a way to get it out there where it's available to people at a lower cost, a lower entry price to do things. We're trying to share good information, not become Stephen King, right?
We might be able to put it a way to do it on the Geocache Talk website. We'll have to work on that, but
yeah, that's with the computer stuff.
So I want to ask you, Memphis Mafia, and I also want to ask Jeff about hiding challenges. I know we're not going to have time tonight to get into a lot about hiding. That's almost for another show. Take a drink. But I do want to get into it a little bit. But before we do that, I do want to mention one of our sponsors. One of our sponsors is FTF Magazine. I'm holding up an FTF Magazine, FTF Geocacher magazine. It's ftfgeocacher.com if you want to go subscribe. But it is awesome. I think one of the things that I love about this magazine, one is I can still get a magazine, an actual physical magazine, which I love. But incredible stories. Electric Water Boy does a little thing in here always about what do you do this time? About games, and so puzzles. So there's one I'm showing about Electric Water Boy. He tells, and there's a lot of great stuff in this magazine. So we highly recommend it. Keith Petrus does a fabulous job of putting this thing together. A lot of work that goes into putting this thing together. A lot of great stories. There's a lot of great pictures. There's some good ads. In case you're wondering, I know you usually want to rant about ads but there's a lot of cool stuff as far as like, oh, I never even heard about that. There's a geocache, a geo tour in Baytown. In case you're wondering, wow. So
it breaks a lot of news a lot of times that you haven't heard about.
Yeah, right. and that people put their milestones in there. I always like that.
They always put their milestones in there, which is And I don't know why it's so cool, right? Like the milestone is a great accomplishment. And like you see our ad right there, Geocache Talk. Look at that.
Hey, how about that? Hey, woo.
And we're on podcast and we do all kinds of stuff out there, but I still get excited. I still have the magazine where we had a milestone in there. And I don't know why I'm more excited about that than I was because we're in a magazine. So it's kind of cool. It's just different.
It's cool. Yeah.
But it's obvious that magazine is done by a geocacher, right? It's not just something here's a market, I can sell stuff to people. Once again, just like the movie Treasure, which we're going to go over in a couple weeks again, but they did stuff in the movie. Well, he hides stuff in there, and if people don't know about the Spartacus game, that's kind of fun. Yes. I'm not very good at it, but it's a fun game
hides
every time.
Yep, hides Spartacus.
It's a magazine for geocachers, but it's also by geocachers, right? Mm-hmm. It's like you tell that it's a real person doing it that knows what's up.
And if you've hit a milestone, you should absolutely send your information in there and get people to clap for you. And because that's important,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't have to be your milestone's 5,000 fines either. That's crazy.
No, you can do
20 fines or 20 fines or whatever. And I think it's exciting to be able to get recognized for some of the fun stuff that folks are out there doing.
Yeah. I mean, there's 300. I mean, that's, that's something 100. I mean, the idea is that it means something to all of us. You found 100 caches. That's awesome.
Oh, we just hit a milestone. I just realized that. And it was Zach Cache. We need to send it in.
Send a note in. Anyway, so subscribe to FTF Magazine. It's well worth it. It's cheap. It's worth a few bucks to do that. So and please,
it's well done too. It's not.
It is.
It's not just a couple of pieces of paper stapled together.
Oh no, it's quality.
Nice.
No, it's high quality.
You offer both the digital and the physical, right?
Yeah, I think he still does. I prefer the physical, but you can get whichever.
I did too. I preferred the digital until I got the physical, and then I preferred the physical.
Yeah, because it's just fun to have that magazine. I don't get a lot of magazines. That's one of my few. So all right. Okay. Again, we're not going to be able to get into a lot of, that's for a whole show about hiding challenges, but I want to ask, because both of you guys Memphis Mafia family and Jeff, have all hidden challenges. So I don't know who wants to go first, but maybe because we're going to get into talking about some of Jeff's challenges here in a minute. But I don't know. Somebody start and kind of give people sort of the 101. We don't normally do 101, but this is kind of a cool
you can't really have a 101 with this because it's kind of an advanced topic, right?
It is kind of. It is.
So we can start off. The hiding challenges are a little bit different than hiding other things. There's some other steps you have to go through, right? A traditional, you just have to make sure it meets the rules. With challenges, you got to make sure that it meets more rules. And you want to, one of the biggest things, and I won't go into the big thing about it, but we have a good chapter on hiding challenges.
Oh, cool.
A lot of people forget, they get so caught up in a cool challenge, they forget the other elements of a cache that they would put out there, right? Like you have a Jasmer challenge, let's say, and then it's a pill bottle in a parking lot. Well, we've had to learn the hard way that maybe you need to, you got to balance it though, right? Because you can also hide them too hard. And then people get mad. They're like, I've already done the work. But have that balance. Still have a good cache page, have a good story, and have a good container at the end so people feel like this was kind of cool, you know? Now, if you're in an urban environment, you have to hide it where you have to hide it, right? I got that. But if you have the ability to put it where it's still a nice area, then you're kind of double dipping and jacking those favorite points up. And it's a good experience all around. So I would say that would be my first really succinct piece of advice is don't forget that it's not just a challenge. It's still a geocache. It's still the whole picture.
Yeah. I'd add to that what I really like is when a challenge, the cache of the challenge is related to the theme of the challenge. Like say you're doing a challenge for a certain attribute like tree climbs. I love tree climbs. If the final is not a difficult tree climb, but it's at least off the ground, right? Then at least you follow that same theme. If they've completed the challenge and qualified for it with tree climbs, then this shouldn't be that different. And at least you're still following the theme. It's more fun that way.
Now, one of the big things is that you have to have done it. You can't just sort of make up some crazy challenge and go, oh yeah, I've never done it, but right. You have to.
Not only that, you have to be able to demonstrate that others have done it in the area.
Right.
In Ontario, that's like
you have to do that, but now you do.
Okay.
Cool. And that's kind of subjective. Some will ask you for 5 and some will ask you for 10. It just depends on reviewer. That's kind of the reviewers. They're just trying to make sure it's not something that's going to sit out there and take up space and nobody cares about it, right?
It kind of depends on the challenge too, right, Jesse? A little bit.
It does. It absolutely does. I mean, they're going to, if you're putting out a Jasmer challenge, they're not going to ask you. If you're putting out something weird, spell my cat's name like people used to do.
You can't do that anymore.
I know, but they would. But they would ask a question like, it was some weird thing like
a good example is the 5x5 by 5 whatever.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, they're going to ask questions about that. But one of the good things somebody asked in the chat room, and this is I have an opinion on that. We'll see what your opinion is on this too. But should challenge hides be easy to find, or do you care? So that's an interesting one. The actual, because difficulty is based on the challenge. Terrain under the new rules is based on the actual hide. So should they be hard to find? Because there is no real difficulty reflecting that. So what do you think about that?
I think that's kind of a tough one because I think it would depend on how the listing is structured. Because I think if the cache owner, I think it would kind of come to the theme again. Like if the theme is you're finding very difficult caches, then I wouldn't be upset if the final cache is a difficult to find one because it flows. But if it's like you're doing, say, 100 park and grabs, 101 ones or something, then you wouldn't want that last one to be a 5 difficulty to find. Right? It's
to be a tree climb.
So, yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
If it's a challenge that someone, let's say, that is disabled and in a wheelchair, and they're going for it, and they were able to meet the challenge, then the final doesn't need to be at the top of a mountain where they can't get there. That's not fair.
Mm-hmm.
However, I will say if you're hiding a challenge, and I go into a longer version of this story in the book, but if you're hiding a challenge, just exactly like what you just said, give them an idea kind of. So the difficulty of the cache hide is kind of one of those in the vapor things with the new rules. So there's nowhere to really reflect that. So I would put that in the description because I definitely got some feedback on one that I hid that was more difficult. Now it was a 5-5 challenge and it was 4 grids. It was full thing, but the way I hit it, people were unhappy. They were like, these are supposed to be in lampposts. I'm like, I disagree with you, but I want people to be happy. It's supposed to be a fun challenge. So
Well, and just give them a heads up, because if they know it's at the top of a mountain, the final, and they know they can't get there, then let them know so they don't go for that. They go.
And it's kind of a leftover from the old challenges as well, because there used to be 5-5 challenges that were film plots under a lamppost because the 5-5 was for the challenge. So I think some people still kind of feel like that's the way it should be, that the rating is for the challenge, not the cache or something like that.
And I think you can reflect that, like with any cache, really, though, if you're not intentionally, if that's not part of the theme of it or whatever, and you can give them the information ahead of time, because you can really turn people off to things by
not expecting it or missing that.
Yeah. A lot of times, like we found a multi this week, or I didn't find a multi this weekend. But it was one of those, you get there and you don't know how many stages are going to be, which whatever. I knew that going in, so I can't be mad about that. Right. And it was multiple stages.
I have a story about
the fifth stage is missing, but that's a different story. But, give people a heads up, right? Now, I was able to, based on the logs, I was able to get an idea that I'm going to be there for a while doing this. It's a bummer that the fifth stage was missing, but give people a hint. Be like, hey, guess what?
Yes. Because that exact example is why I hate where it goes to this day, because of the very first one we found. And there was no information that it was going to be about 20 stages. And it was tough. So I agree. Give people a heads up about what they're going for so that there's no surprise or shock. I mean, yeah, you want there still be a hide at the end, but you don't want it to be something they've worked weeks or months on, and then they can't get to the final. They can't do it. That's just not fair.
We should put that in a book.
Well, I'm sure y'all did.
Put it in a reprint.
I meant the Where I Go book. But,
the Where I Go book.
That's for another show.
That's for another show. That's for another book. Okay, so I want to take a moment, if we can. I want to talk about a couple challenges, specific ones, not in the book, but I think that Memphis Mafia will be able to relate or talk about their experience with something like this. So Jeff, we've got a couple in the notes I want to talk about. One of them that I really want to take a moment on, which is, and people need to go watch Cache the Line, go back and find, is it, you can put it also in the notes if you would, Jeff, you have a vlog where you talk about why Iron Man came about. It wasn't your first vlog, but it's early on, right?
Yeah, that was the theme for Chasing the Iron Man, which was the old name of my channel, was based on the completion of a 1 year daily caching, so the 366 day year grid. And that was kind of a really influential challenge. I mean, it's not a small challenge to take on, because it's a daily. There's like picture a day type challenges if you're a photographer and things like that. And it's intended to be a significant personal life goal sort of thing. And doing like geocaching every single day for a whole year, it's a lot of work. So it was a significant challenge. Yeah.
So you've hit in a 366 day challenge. I don't know, Memphis and Christy, have y'all hit in a something similar? Okay.
Yeah. So,
or a variation.
One was 365 days, which you have to do 365 now instead of 366.
Oh yeah. Okay.
But the one where it's 365 in a row is different. We did one where you either just fill in the calendar twice, or one where you have to do it all traditionals, but it doesn't have to be in the same year. So you're just filling in the calendar. So that 365 challenge, the calendar challenge, goes in a couple of different directions. One is the streak, and one is the just fill in the calendar with whatever. If it's all in 1 year, 5 times, traditionals only, mysteries only. There's all kinds of those out there. That's
the cool part.
Both of those challenges, but we own one that's one for all traditionals, and then one to do the calendar twice.
Cool.
Yeah, the year grid that's not sequential or consecutive is much more accessible, because it doesn't matter how long you've been caching, you can still work towards that. And it's funny because even after challenges kind of started, there's a lot of people who are very active geocachers with tens of thousands of finds who never really focused on the challenges. And you'd think, oh yeah, they qualify, but you look at their grid and they've still got all these holes because they've never really thought about it before. Yeah. So
yeah, people definitely cache differently. And you look at so one of the top cachers in the world, Mondo.
Yep.
People who follow stats know who he is. Him and Alamogul are the top ones or whatever. He just happens to be from around here, and so I've met him several times. that joker finds tons of caches. But because of his style of caching, I mean, he's in the see like 150,000 or something.
Yeah, he's in the top group.
He's found them all, maybe. But he goes and goes and goes. He likes finding a bunch in one day. So if there's a cache that's going to take 3 days, he's not as interested in that. That reflects in some of his statistics, and you think, and obviously because he's found so many, he's found everything pretty much. But it definitely congregates towards certain styles and certain types, and and then there's some people that have only found like, a couple thousand caches, but they've looped their grid like 10 times. You're like, I didn't even do that with that.
Right. Because they focused on it.
Yeah. And that's kind of what happened. I was talking to somebody else about this with me, with the Tequila 81. It was I think it was the actual first challenge that I completed, but that challenge, long pre-moratorium, had the date restriction. So you could only qualifying caches were published before the challenge and found after the challenge. And so that meant that the challenge would get harder and harder as time goes on, because the only qualifying caches, they don't come out anymore. So they'll get archived slowly, and you've got to find all these DTs, 81 DTs that are old. And that was the first challenge that I finished. And
talk a little bit about that one a little bit more in detail. Take a moment and talk about Tequila 81 proof. I'm gonna put it in the show notes, but that one, why is it? I mean, what is it other than just the normal fizzy?
Yeah, there's another challenge. There's a California fizzy, I think it is, something like that. I might have to look it up. It's very similar. It's one of the few remaining fizzy challenges with a date restriction, and it means that if there's only a certain number of specific DTs that were published before a specific date, which means you will have to travel to go and find those DTs. And as they get archived, they get fewer and fewer. You can't ask somebody to publish this DT for this challenge because it doesn't qualify.
It's too late. So it's sort of a combo of Jasmer and fizzy.
Yeah.
Kind of. So.
In a way.
Those are really cool. I like those. Some of those like that will say too that if you don't, that's another good tip is to really read the cache page. Don't just because it has 81 in the title. It's just a fizzy.
Right.
There's a fizzy around here that's for only traditionals, only physical caches, no non-physical. So events don't count and things like that. If you don't pay attention, you can be really disappointed when you get home and go, "Oh, I'm actually not qualified for this."
Yeah. UC mentioned it, and Owen from KC. Yeah. So there's one in the notes if you want to look at it and get an idea. It's GC 11 puzzle zone water, and take a look at that one. That one's kind of unique. I'd never thought of that, and then I guess it's a good example. And that's something I'm sure you guys mentioned in the book, is the fact that you can take a challenge, as long as it's within the rules, but you can do some checking, and you can take a challenge and like twist it a little bit and make a variation of it in such a way that it's cool to you, and maybe it's even cool to others, because like, I love puzzles, like Electric Water Boy, he loves puzzles. Well, what can you do to twist it in such a way that you can make a challenge about? And we've even mentioned tonight, you can make a fizzy grid of puzzles. I mean, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Make it work to what you're passionate about.
Yeah.
Right. And you don't have to be into everything, but you're probably into something. Make it work to what you're passionate about.
Or it may be something that you're not into right now, but when you hear about it, you get intrigued. You're like, oh, I never thought about that. That does sound kind of cool. Maybe I would be. Maybe I'll sort of dip my toe in, and I'll kind of check on, I have done 4 or 5 of them already. Maybe I could do a few more, and you can kind of get into it that way.
And that's what's so much fun, because it's not everybody is into every type. Like some people are really into fizzy loops. We're not. I don't care. I've really actually only completed fizzy once. Right. If you look at my calendar, if you look at our fizzy thing, everything is in that top left and bottom right corner. Right. Go after 5 5s.
The 1 1 or a 5 5. Right.
Those are like black on both sides of those corners, which they get darker every time you get more of them.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of places that in that middle band that we don't even do a lot of those because they don't fall into what we're doing. But now, like Jasmer, we love that. We're going for our second Jasmer. Now we're a little skewed because 2 of the first people that had done it 4 times just happened to be in our caching group. So our opinion of that is a little skewed, right? We go
and we love travel, and so Jasper right in with
absolutely
a love of travel.
So you don't have to do everything, and I don't think anybody expects everybody to be qualified for every challenge. Just like the if for everybody who's going to Geo Woodstock, there's a Geo Art down there that's, I don't know the name of it, Gary. You may have to help me with this one, but
I can look
it's a
for
big
it.
Geo Art of all comprised of challenges, and you're probably not going to be qualified for all of them.
Oh yeah,
but you're probably qualified for some of them.
Sure.
South Carolina.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, so I do want to take a moment because the show we're starting to get sort of toward the end, but I'm a big cache hider. I mean, I've gotten 200. Some of those are events, but mostly they're all cache hides. Some people are really, I know we're weird. All you hiders of caches out there, thumbs up to you because you're part of the crew. We're not paid for it. Geocaching.com doesn't usually mention the hiders, but without us, there would be no geocaching, no game.
Hey, the cache owners got the bonus of the favorite points for this last promotion.
We did, which was great. When they finally got some props when the Cache Carnival came around.
Unless you're an event host, and then you don't ever get.
You get them all. Yeah, that's true. But so Jeff, would you talk a little bit about the Ironman Bingo, because it was about placing? It was a placed challenge, right?
Yeah, it was a challenge that was placed before the moratorium, and days before the date restriction was added. But yeah, so this was one that I placed without qualifying myself. That wasn't a rule.
Back then.
Yeah.
But we'll put in the show notes. It's people want to follow along and play along at home. It's GC3 difficulty 5 event bison. Okay, keep going.
So this one took a whole lot of deliberation to get published, and the way it looks now isn't the way that the original layout that I had. Originally, this was when I wanted to have like sequential finds. So say finding 5 multis in a row.
Right.
And this is one of those points that I can completely agree why it wasn't allowed, because the way logs go, it's by day, and you could order things, you could log them out of order, and there's no way to verify that caches were found in that order. So it was very arbitrary. So we finally settled, after a whole lot of deliberation with the reviewers, on doing daily sequential days of certain types of caches. So it's really a bingo grid of sequential caching styles, with 100 consecutive days in the middle as the wild square. And what I love about this, I'm still working to qualify, is that a couple of local friends, they saw this pop up, and I can't remember if they wanted to get FTF, but they definitely wanted to be the first to fill the entire grid. But to do that,
the bingo grid, basically, it's a bingo grid.
Yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, BI and Geo, and they wanted to be the first to fill the entire grid. So they created an Excel spreadsheet and layered all of the different sequential ranges and different styles and requirements to see what could overlap, and tried to complete the entire grid in as short a time as possible.
Right, makes sense.
Yeah, so they managed to get it within the 100 days 100 days requirement. Their log is near the beginning. You can find it. It's Discus, Crib, and Dre links. But it was just, I mean, they showed me the Excel spreadsheet. It was unbelievable. And they laugh about it. But they like to blame me about how much they spent from the
money wise. That's awesome.
But I have to give them huge props on that. That was So that's the Ironman bingo. It was disabled for a year or so because I was trying to find a good way to hide it. It kept disappearing. But I'm not going to archive it. I don't want to archive it.
Don't want to archive it. No.
Never get it back.
Yeah. So
all right. So
you know what? That does bring up a good point though about challenges. Is that if you are able to get a challenge out there, and I don't care how crazy or off the wall it seems, somebody will work on completing it.
Right.
There are people out there that will do whatever it takes to complete a challenge, or just, a cache. If you had a cache, there's somebody interested in it. Stop pointing fingers, people.
Both these two, Jeff falls in that category too.
If you're interested in it and you can get a challenge passed, somebody's working on it.
Yep. All right. So we're going to go around the room and do a little bit of final thoughts. Before we do that though, Jeff, are you ready to give away some swag, some cool, cool stuff.
So,
all right,
I'm going to start with Instagram. I've been running a few giveaways for some swag, some Geocache Talk swag. So Instagram's giveaway was for, well, first of all, the Cache the Line button. Woo! And a Geocache Talk zipper pull.
Yay!
Cool. And the I don't know if this was the original or one of the first.
That's the original.
The original.
That was the very first one. You know what? You know how many of those I have? One. I kept one. The rest of them are gone. So I got one path tag of my own of our first show, our first path tag. But anyway, Jesse probably has a whole bunch squirreled away somewhere.
I put them on eBay.
There you go. Good.
Money on the side.
Appreciate you. Yeah, it's the only way to do it, right?
Yeah. So we've got our first draw, and I don't know if I think this is going to be backwards. So we'll see if this works. Lost Boy Rambler.
It is backwards.
Lost Boy Rambler. Woohoo!
Is it backwards? Is this right? The right way?
That's correct.
The right way.
Yes.
Okay.
That is
So
correct,
locally, it's backwards. Okay. Lost Boy Rambler.
All right. Awesome.
We'll contact
Very
you.
cool.
Very awesome. All right. Cool. Now you got 2 more giveaways or no?
Yep. Okay. So we'll do those. I guess. Then,
you got 2 more, right? Well, let's go. Let's do this. Let's go. I'll do a few final thoughts. Do another one because I want to finish with Memphis Mafia and the CFO. I'll let them kind of be the final thing, final thoughts. So let me give a couple my final thoughts on tonight. It goes fast, folks. I mean, we could talk about cache challenges for quite a while, and I appreciate the people that have been on, our co-host and affiliate, and the people in the chat room who've been so gracious to give us information as well. But I guess I'm a person who maybe fits in with a lot of people who are listening, which is, you don't care about challenges. Well, maybe you might be interested in a few challenges. I think the thing is that when I first hear about challenges, I kind of initially get inundated because I hear about, typically you'll hear about 100 of them and you're like, it's too much. It's overload. But when you step back and you look at it, maybe there's something that might interest you. And so for us, for Susan and I, the thing that really became about interest was counties. Finding caches in counties, because it fit what we were wanting to do, which is do some more traveling and to get out. And, I didn't have to climb a tree, or, I'm not going to be, there's a lot of things about geocaching that I don't do or don't want to do. And that's perfectly fine because that's the beauty of geocaching. And so take a look around. My suggestion is don't write off all challenges. I would say you need to investigate all the ones that are out there, and maybe, you can pick and choose. Find something that might interest you, or even if you haven't gotten interested in something, maybe there's something out there that might interest you, and you might find that you want to do a certain challenge. And maybe you are a tree climber. Maybe you love to climb trees. You didn't realize that there's probably a challenge out there for, I know there are challenges out there for certain of the DT grid. So, I mean, don't write off all challenges. Don't just fluff them all off. Give us a giant meh. Take a moment, investigate it, look for, search. You need to search for challenges that are interest you. You don't have to like them all. Just find the ones that interest you. So, all right, Jeff, do you want to do another of your number 2 of 3? Is that
sure?
Yes.
Okay. So second, we have I'm going to do the Facebook draw.
Okay.
And that one is same thing. Cache the Line button.
Right.
Get there. Geocache Talk. And the new Geocache Talk.
Sweet. I love that. Love the look of that one. Pink sweet design for that, but it's on our webpage. Go check them out.
Yeah, it's really cool seeing how the difference in mechanics of these different social media. The Facebook post just exploded. It was all over the place.
That's awesome.
But the name drawn for the Facebook draw is
Nancy.
Gickowicz.
Yeah, that'll work. Yeah. I don't know how to say her last name, but
yeah,
Nancy's great. We love Nancy. She's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So Jeff, we're gonna have you kind of give your final thoughts, and then let you do the last one, and then we're gonna leave the last notes for them. So tell us your final thoughts on challenges for now. It's not the final word, but it's the final word for tonight from you at least. And we'll talk about challenges again someday, but go ahead.
Yeah. Obviously I love challenges. The thing that I like to tell people about challenges is that it's like, it's to geocaching what geocaching is to muggles, right? It's like you don't know geocaching, but then you start geocaching and it's this whole new experience, a whole new world. Once you've done geocaching for a long time, especially now that there's so many caches out there, challenge caching is kind of a next level. Like you're no longer faced with this swath of all the caches that are out there and just going out and caching stuff. Now you have like a direction. You can choose. You can pick and choose. You might go for caches that you probably otherwise wouldn't have seen or thought of going for before because it's a qualifier for a challenge. So it kind of opens that, like I said in my last vlog, it opens that playing field of caches and selections and stuff. And but I mean, and like you said before, it's not necessarily for everybody. You don't have to go all in. You can just kind of pick and choose, just like casual cachers might go out once or twice a month or even a year just for fresh air and find a cache or two. Same sort of thing with challenges. You could just go for an easy challenge. Your county challenge is a great one because it gets you seeing new places. You can just kind of go and grab a cache somewhere out there and see what's new. The Jasmer is great for that as well because there's so few caches that qualify for that now that you might target a cache in another state or province and have a road trip and enjoy that experience. Like you don't have to be crazy prolific cacher with huge stats to enjoy doing a challenge. So I like the fact that the book should hopefully kind of bring challenge caching down to a casual level so that people can feel like, this could be fun.
Yep. Yeah, Wet Coaster mentioned in the chat room, he says just about anybody will qualify for some kind of challenge. So it's a good thought. So,
well, there's that one challenge that's like all you need to find is one cache, and this cache counts. It's not allowed anymore.
You can't do that anymore, I'm sure.
No, I got turned down for one of those.
It's funny though.
There was going to be one of those at the 14er Mega.
Yeah. Oh wow. All right. Okay. Let's do
another giveaway.
Let's do the last giveaway, and then we're gonna have Jesse and Christy finish up, and then I'll have the outro. So go ahead, Jeff. Give us the final. This one was Twitter.
Yep. So that one was just retweeting and following, and so we've got same thing, cache line button, and same thing, Geocache Talk, zipper pull.
Yep.
And for number 3. The brand new Cache the Line, highly exclusive.
Ooh, well, that looks good. That's right.
Looks good.
It does. It looks great. It looks great, and it is. It is because you only did the starter kit, so there's only a few of those around.
I do have. Yeah, I did do another set, so there's like a more generic large batch, but not this color scheme in a different metal. So cool. That one will be for general trading and handout. But the winner of the Twitter draw is Rich Kamakino.
Oh, Kamakino and the kid.
Kamakino and
no, just Rich. He can share them. So awesome.
Congratulations.
Well, I'm glad you did those giveaways. That was a lot of fun to watch and see everybody get excited about, and it's always fun to do giveaways. So very excited about that for you, and we're really thankful that you're with us as an affiliate. So I know it's means a lot to us. So
it's
all right, Jesse.
Too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, all right, well, Jesse, give us kind of wrap us up on the book.
On this thing?
You and Christy. You and Christy.
So I want to let the CFO talk, but you said that perfectly in that I think a good and the reason why we titled the book exactly what we did, the game within the game, is, and you explained it perfectly. We should have called you before we finished writing the book. That's a perfect explanation of it.
That's right.
Geocaching is this big game, which is a secret game, but there's also a secret game within the game. It's kind of what we, it's a whole different thing. And people that are into challenges, they're really into challenges, but nobody is qualified for all of them.
Right.
And almost everybody is qualified for some.
Right. It's a good way to put it.
Like we mentioned Mondo earlier, he's qualified for a bunch of challenges, right? But he's not qualified for all of them because nobody can do everything in the game because it's such a varied game. And we're trying to express that a little bit in the book, that there's something a little bit in there for everybody. Somebody mentioned in the chat room, I didn't get to it because it was going so fast, but they mentioned like the DT average of 3.3. That's not our style. You know what I mean? We've been to hundreds and hosted hundreds of events, and that's what we'll always do because we like that part of the game. So we'll never have that extreme DT average that's high like that. But that's okay. We're okay with that. We're not big loopers. That's with it when it comes to fizzy. So but we're okay with that because we enjoy our style of caching, and it fits in there somewhere. And I think everybody has their own style, at least currently, even though it may change in the future. And it's kind of a fun way to not reward, but motivate your own style, I guess.
Well, and I think you hit the nail on the head. So, we cache as a family. So it was a fun way for us to have multiple caches or challenges we can go for that interest each member of our caching group, which was exciting. So, Jesse loves to go for 5.5s. The rest of us don't always want to go for 5.5s. So by having our own individual challenges that we could kind of go for, it gave us the opportunity to work towards everybody's goal as a family, which was really nice.
That's awesome.
And it could be as simple as like the little one, she's a little bit older now, but when she started, she loved finding swag. Well, you can only find that in larges. Well, maybe that's your thing. You just go out and look for large caches and you don't really care about all the other ones.
Right.
So it could be tons of different, it's a good way to get motivated, I think.
And just to echo one other thing that was said, it's also a good way to look for caches you might not normally ever look for. There are several stories in the book where we stumbled across a cache because we were specifically looking or trying to satisfy the requirements for a challenge that were amazing that we probably wouldn't have sought out, on its own. So it is a game within the game, but that can be interpreted in so many ways because you really do find some amazing caches. You go to some amazing places and make some great memories along the way, just seeking out, these caches that satisfy the requirements for these challenges.
No, that's great. Yep. Well, thank you so much. I look forward to getting me a copy of that book. I'm going to try to sneak one early because I know they're going to be gone pretty quick, but it'll be on Amazon. We'll have the link in the website when it's available. If you go to Geocache Talk and you go to books, you'll be able to find it after Geo Woodstock. If you're coming to Geo Woodstock, make a beeline for the Geocache Talk booth and get you a copy and get Jesse and Christy to sign that for you. And really look forward to that. And I think it's been a great discussion tonight. It won't be our last. I know we're going to talk about these and get more in as we go on. We'll talk more about different possibilities because I think there's a lot of possibilities. And Jeff, so many thanks to you, my friend, for being on as well and giving us your insights into your experience with geocaching challenges as well. So, all right, well, folks, we hope you enjoyed the show tonight. Email us your comments to geocachetalk@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, facebook.com/Geocache Talk. You can find the show on iTunes, Stitcher, all the different audio podcasts. And of course, you can always find us on YouTube. We strongly suggest that you click on the subscribe button below and ring the little bell so that you can be reminded of when the show is on. That will become very important coming up in a few weeks because yeah, we are. If we do a 3 p.m. show, which we do once in a while, we're looking to do periodically. We try to do an international show. Working on getting our friends in Belgium back on the show, the GOT folks. And if we do that, it'll be a 3 p.m. show. But
any surprise shows,
yes,
like maybe around Geo Woodstock time, that would be how you'd find out about them ahead of time.
Yeah, even we don't know what it's going to be. That's why you need to have that subscribe button, because we're going to do a show sometime. We don't even know what it's going to be, but that's the way that you can really know about it. So definitely click on that and ring that. You got to ring the little bell too to get the updates. So, all right, again, we thank you guys for gals for being in the chat room, and until next week, don't just talk about geocaching. Go check out the challenges. Go to Project GC. Go read about them. Go Google and look around and find you a cache challenge that interests you. And after you do, you need to go geocaching. Good night, everybody.
Good night.